Hello, everybody. You're reading with Jimmy. This is part 4 of our analysis of the Horla by Guy de Maupassant, pages 332 to 344, translated by Roger Collette. This will be the last part of our analysis of the story that he wrote, and so let's begin. We left off our analysis with the narrator wondering if he was mad. Remember, he took a trip, went through the whole hypnosis with his cousin. Now he's back in his house, and he's verified that he believes he's living. There's a creature living with him, a creature that drinks milk and water, etc. So he's thinking about he's questioning if he was mad, my ability to verify unreality of certain hallucinations. He talked about, he's questioning himself. We discussed hallucinations. Little by little, however, an inexplicable uneasiness came stealing over me. Some force, some occult force, supernatural, was slowing me down, stopping me, preventing me from going any farther, calling me back. Where? Because he took his alongside water, sunshine, blah, 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 beauty, blah, blah, blah. I felt that distressing impulse to turn back, which takes hold of you when you have left someone you love at home ill. So in spite of myself, I turned back, convinced that I would find bad news at home. But there was nothing. I felt more puzzled than ever before because there was nothing there, right? August 8th, next day, I had a terrible evening. Terrible. He, remember, we're studying the pronouns. He no longer shows himself, but I can feel him near me, spying on me, watching me, penetrating me, dominating me, and more to be feared when he hides in this way than if he revealed his constant invisible presence by supernatural phenomena. What a tortured soul. The reason you have to decide right now if you're going to read this as a horror story or as a person descending into insanity is the next sentence. I slept well all the same. I'm not laughing at you or Meg. If you felt this paragraph up here, watching me, penetrating me, spying, blah, 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 I slept well all the same. I don't know if I could do that. Sleep well all the same. Although there's a connection between sleeping and the beginning, remember? He thought it was sleep doing this to him. The next day, nothing, I'm afraid. 10th, nothing. But what will happen tomorrow? Remember, foreshadowing, anxiety, paranoia, August 11th. Still nothing. I cannot stay at home any longer with this fear. I'm going to go away. Remember when he goes away a couple times and he's not haunted by the creature. He's not possessed by the creature, whatever. August 12th, 10 o'clock at night, all day I wanted to go away, but I couldn't do it. Why? So he wants to go away, but he can't go away. Next day, when certain illnesses affect you, all the springs in your physical being seem broken. All of your energy exhausted. You remember COVID, right? You remember that crazy disease. You remember the flu. All of your muscles are soft flesh and your flesh is liquid as water. In a strange, distressing way, I feel as though all of this has happened to my spiritual being. See that? Jimmy should have marked that. To my spiritual being. So physically, spiritually, we're all connected, mind, body. I can no longer will anything. Someone wills things for me. Someone wills things for me, and I obey. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. You know what to will means is like take your right hand right now and move your index finger. Can you move that? I'm doing that right now. I got my hand. I'm willing my index finger to move. Can you imagine if someone was doing that and you weren't doing that, what you would feel like? Do you ever have a muscle spasm? Sometimes they come out of nowhere, right? Oh, Jesus. And you feel I get them in my calf sometimes from exercise. So, and I just wait, or during the night, holy, what the hell? It's just a muscle spasm. And I certainly don't think there's somebody doing that to me. I know it's a muscle spasm, but what if it wasn't? What if it was somebody doing that to you? At least he thinks it is. And now you know why you should feel sorry for the guy. He really believes somebody's doing this to him. Well, Jimmy, how is that possible? I don't know how it's possible. All I do know is we are gifted with this wonderful story to experience firsthand in a person's mind what it means to lose your willpower. To lose your willpower. Next day, I'm done for. Someone is in possession of my mind. Someone is directing me at every. I no longer count for anything within myself. I am nothing but a terrified, captive spectator of all the things I do. You know, I don't know if you've ever studied acting or watched actors. So I used to say this to people when they were having trouble making presentations in front of a group or a crowd, you know, at a trade show or something like this. I said, you have to jump outside yourself and watch yourself. You can't stay in yourself. And they would look at me strangely, and then they would get it. Because the best way, what actors do, method actors especially, is they're not inside, they're outside themselves watching themselves act. It sounds schizophrenic, and maybe it is, but it's not. It's not. You're really directing yourself in the role you're playing, which in a sense, that's not what this is, but that's what he's talking about. He has no control over anything he does. He's a captive spectator. Somebody else is doing this to him. What I'm talking about is you doing it to yourself, not some alien being. In any case, I want to go out. I can't. There it is again, doesn't want me to. He keeps me seated. I want no more than to stand up. I cannot. I'm riveted to my chair. Then all of a sudden, I must go to the bottom of the garden. Remember, he's writing this in his diary. This is diary narration. He's not talking to anybody. He's writing it. This is written words in his diary. I must go to the bottom of the garden and pick some strawberries and eat them. And I go and I pick up strawberries and I eat them. Oh God, God, is there a God? Unbelievable. By the way, what is it about strawberries? I don't know if you remember the movie The Cane Mutiny. Wasn't Humphrey Bogart involved in the missing strawberries too? I know in Mutiny on the Bounty there was missing cheese. But in this case, there was What is it about strawberries? I got to figure that out. Can you figure that out? The narrator is experiencing a complete breakdown. The writing, his journal, captures this torture. Imagine being so distressed, so anxious. Oh God, is there if there is, then deliver me, save me, help me, forgive me, take pity on me. There's a movie where Marlon Brando played Apocalypse Now. I don't know if you saw the movie. If you didn't, you should see it. Marlon Brando plays an expatriate who goes rogue. In any case, there's a great scene, and Marlon Brando was one of, if not the greatest method actor that I've ever seen in my lifetime. There's a scene in there where he's talking and narrating from his diary, believe it or not. I think it's his diary. In any case, he's narrating something about what he's experienced in fighting in Vietnam. And he says this with just terrific emphasis. The horror. The horror. I can't do it justice, but that's what you should be feeling when you read what the narrator is writing about what he's going through. It's the horror. How my poor cousin was, this is exactly how his poor cousin was possessed and dominated. You see how he ties things together from his experiences. She came to borrow 5,000. So, but what is this being who dominates me? The unknown, the invisible wanderer, is that a supernatural way? So the invisible ones exist. So now he's convincing himself these creatures really exist, right? I've never read anything like the things that have happened in my house. He's done research, obviously, on supernatural things. He's done thinking about it, but he's never read anything like this. If I can only leave, why can't he leave? I wrote that as a question for you, ladies and gentlemen. Why can't the narrator leave? Well, Jimmy, it's pretty obvious. The creature's keeping him there. Well, if it's a horror, you're reading it as a horror story, yes, the creature's keeping him there. But if you're reading it as a descent into insanity, right, why can't he leave? Because he himself is not letting himself leave. He thinks he's controlled by something outside himself. We just talked about that. But it's really him doing it, only he doesn't know he's doing it. Wow. Next day, he escaped for 2 hours. He drove to Rouen. He goes to the city, and what a joy. He's so excited to be away. Oh, gosh. And he goes to the library and reads Dr. Hermann Hestaus's great treatise on the unknown inhabitants of the ancient and modern worlds. He's picking up books that are going to help him understand the creature or whatever. I did research on this. I can't find this guy anywhere. I think this is all made up because I cannot find Hermann Hestaus. You can try to find it yourself, but I don't believe that person exists. So that's more evidence that the guy is going insane. I'm not going to say that's the only evidence, but I don't believe there's such a book. Okay, because not that Google is the end-all, be-all. Maybe there's some book located in somebody's basement in France. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's what matters is the topic of the book, right? The treatise on unknown inhabitants of the ancient and unknown inhabitants. What does that mean? He had come back and taken possession of me once more when he gets home, right? So he gets home. What a night. So he reads the book on history and manifestations of invisible being. I'm not going to go through all this. We read it in the original reading. After 1 o'clock in the morning, he's reading until then. It's fine and warm. I would have enjoyed the night. No moon. He looks outside. What lives in those worlds? He's thinking. Does this sound like a madman? We humans are so weak, so defenseless, so ignorant, so small on this speck of dust spinning around in a drop of water. I can't tell you how often I've thought about that when you look at the night sky and you think about and contemplate stars and planets and life on other planets, that we're just a speck. We're a piece of dust. And we cause so much trouble, don't we? So he dozed off, sleeps for about 40 minutes, gets up, and at first he saw nothing. And then all of a sudden he had the impression a page of the book lying open on my table turned over by itself. Yet not a breath of air had come through the window. Surprise, he waited. He waits 4 minutes. About 4 minutes, after about 4 minutes. How does he know that? I wonder. It's exactly right after about 4. He saw another page turn. He, the creature, was there reading, sitting in his place reading. He opens his eyes and sees the pages of the book turning. There's no wind. He puts 3 and 3 together and says, aha. The creature's there reading. Springs to his room, goes across before he reached the chair. Someone had fled from it. The chair tips over, the table rocks, the lamp falls over and goes out. The window flows open like a thief in the night and jumped out into the night and slammed shut behind him. So the chair falls, the table spills, the light goes out, the window opens, closes real fast, and he runs. He had been frightened, concludes the narrator. In that case, tomorrow, I shall be able to seize him and force him to the ground. Don't dogs turn and bite their masters? So he realizes now that this thing is afraid. So the next day he'd been thinking all day, and yes, I shall obey him, follow his impulse, carry out his wisdom. But he's going to do everything he say. I'll go along with him. But then August 19th, I know everything. I've just read in the newspaper a curious item of news. They said that there's a wave of collective insanity that is affecting everybody in Sao Paulo, right? Brazil. Think that Rio de Janeiro. It's dominated. There's frenzied inhabitants leave their houses, desert their villages, dominated, by an invisible, tangible beings, vampires of some sort that feed on their vitality during their sleep, drink water and milk without apparently touching any other form of food. Professor Don Pedro Hernández, accompanied by several leading doctors, left for São Paulo to study the spot. Now I remember the Brazilian Three Master. Well, we can question if he read that, if it's a real newspaper. I did I can't find that anywhere. But he either made it up, read it, really read it, or it doesn't really matter because now he's connecting it to the Brazilian Three Master that sailed back in May 8th. Remember, this is a journal, diary narration that starts on May 8th when those ships passed and he was having a wonderful day. He now says in the diary that the being was on that Brazilian ship, saw him, and somehow came along. And now man's reign on earth is over. He has come. He whom primitive peoples dreaded, blah, blah, blah. He whom blah, blah, blah. Gnomes, spirits, genies, blah, blah, blah. The quality of having ready insight into things, shrewdness. After the crude concepts of primitive fears of men of greater perspicacity came to see him more clearly. There's Mesmer, we talked about him, guessed at his essential character, and it's already 10 years since the doctor discovered blah, blah, blah. This is the new Lord, the new master, the new being. Heaven knows what else. He has come. What is his name? It is as if he were shouting his name in my ear. I cannot hear it. Yes, Horla. The Horla. He has come. Now creature has a name, the Horla. Finally, on page 338. Oh, the vulture has eaten the dove and blah, blah, blah. The Horla is going to make of man what we have made of the horse and the ox, his chattel, his servant, and his food. Woe to us. Woe to us. And yet, sometimes animal rebels and kills its master. The words of the monk now come to him. These are the words I wanted you to remember. And he actually writes these words out again. And it's the exact same words. I'm going to show you that from the diary before when he wrote that about the wind. A bird has flown into the room, beat its head against the window panes, a sheet of glass. He's looking, my eyes are so weak and imperfect. They are transparent like glass, blah, blah, blah. There's a new being, why not? And so on and so forth. So he's totally convinced now that there's this thing living with him called the Horla. Decay, short-winded, ill-regulated, simple, ingeniously ill-made, crudely, deliciously constructed, a rough model of being what might be intelligent. He's talking about us. This is a new being, superior to us. Our nature, ours is so weak, full of decay. Keep this in mind when we finish the story. Why not one more? Why not one more? Why not one more? Why not one more? He says it again and again. Why not 40? I can imagine one as big as 100 worlds with wings in shape of beauty, color. He's really going off, isn't he? There was a Twilight Zone episode. I don't know if you remember it. It's one of the great ones, if you've ever watched Twilight Zone, which has a lot of weird stuff in it, right? Rod Serling, a supreme writer, absolutely supreme. To serve man, to serve man. Do you remember that one? That's where aliens came to Earth and they got rid of disease, got rid of wars. They gave them a book that nobody could translate, and they started taking the Earthlings to visit their planet. It was a kumbaya moment. This is great, until somebody translated the book that the aliens gave them, and it was to serve man, which it was a cookbook. If you haven't seen that episode, watch it. I'm not saying this guy's an alien, but anyway, there's the paragraph before that we studied that the monk said, just so you know, and you can compare it. It's exactly the same. So we're going to finish this off quickly. He's got the Horla. He's going to kill him. He looks in the mirror. This is an interesting thing because he can't see. There's an interesting section here where he can't see himself. He's looking in the mirror and suddenly he can't see himself because he believes that the Horla is between him and the mirror. He was pretending busy to be writing and watched blah, 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 blah. He was there. His whole had swallowed up my reflection. There's some science fiction movies that show this. If you remember The Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, when the alien would reveal himself because he was invisible, but when he would reveal himself, the reflection that he was revealing kind of shook, opaque transparency, that technique. August 20th, I must kill him. But how? August 21st, I sent for a locksmith from Rouen. And you know what he does. He puts locks everywhere. Doors, windows. September 10th, this is the 21st, so a couple of weeks later, 3 weeks later, September 10th, he's at the Rouen Hotel Continental. He's not in his house. This is the longest and last entry. Okay? Opacity is the measure of impenetrable electron, blah, 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 blah. You can look that up yourself because we're getting a little long in here. I want to finish this up. From the hotel, he writes that he's killed the Horla. But is he dead? And then he documents what he did. Beautiful writing. Absolutely beautiful. He pretends to be busy. He slowly closes the windows. He stands with his back to the door, opens it just a little way, far enough to slip through, locks the door, believes that he's captured the Horla inside the room, locks the door, picks up 2 lamps, empties them on the carpet below, on the bottom, furniture, and he sets fire and leaves. He hides in the garden. He's waiting. He thought maybe it didn't catch. He, started to think it had gone out, that he started to think, heck, maybe the fire went out, or the Horla, had put it out. And the windows outside, suddenly the fissure broke the windows, blew out the windows, yellow flames licking it. Boom, more windows break out. 2 more windows exploded. And then a cry, a terrible cry. The heartrending cry of a woman rang out through the night, and 2 dormer windows were flung open. I had forgotten my servants. I saw their terrified faces and their waving arms. And then, frantic with horror, I started running toward the village, shouting, "Help! Help! Fire! Fire!" I met people already there on their way to the fire, and I turned back with them to watch. But by now, the house was no more than a horrible, awe-inspiring funeral pyre, a monstrous pyre in which human beings were burning. And he was burning too. He, my prisoner, the new being, the new master, the Horla. And suddenly the entire roof fell in. But was he dead? Or perhaps the body of his through which the light of day could pass was impervious. Suppose he wasn't dead. Maybe only time then has found. Why should he possess that unknowable body? If future premature destruction, that's the source of all human. Come on, dread. After man, the Horla. After him who can die at any day, any hour, any minute, man, from any sort of accident, there has come he who shall die only at his appointed day, hour, and minute, because he has reached the limit of his existence. No, no, I know beyond a doubt that he's not dead. In that case, I shall have to kill myself. Wow. From May to September 10th, we watch the narrator as he descends into a madness, or we just see just a horror story. Your choice. You read it the way you want to read it. And there are many interpretations, and you can find, if you research on Google, how you yourself interpret this is up to you. But we have to remain in the story for our interpretation, bringing in our own experience to help us. And in this case, because the narrator is first person, we know that as a human being, he has the same flaws all human beings have. The author, Maupassant, has given us a glimpse into the mind of any one of us and the complexity of the human mind. That's what this story is. It's a picture of all of us in our, well, Jimmy, what are you talking about? This is an insane guy, or it's a, you know what I'm saying? If Maupassant decided to write this in the third person, it would be a totally different story. It wouldn't be, I can guarantee you now, it would not be as emotional. Because what he's doing is he's painting in the first person the torture, the horror that this person is feeling. All information comes to us through our five senses. When you think about it, the human body is an extensive, vast web of cells. I want you to think about this. Looking at just one part of our body, like the eye, makes us apparent that the complexity of the body's makeup. You know how complex your eye is? Look it up on Google. Your eye is unbelievably complex, yet what they can do with cataract surgery today, right? But think about the complexity of any one of your body, your finger, for heaven's sakes, your toe. Doesn't matter. Cells come together to make tissues. Tissues fit together to make organs. Organs coexist and form organ systems. And organ systems make up an entire organism. That's us. The nervous system is the pivotal system of the human body, and everything that goes in the body is regulated by the nerves. The muscular system is a system of the body that is comprised of tissues that make up muscles. So when you think about this, just think about this. Anything can go wrong with one thing and throw the whole body out of whack. Throw the whole system out of whack. Anything. You know, people didn't live as long as they live nowadays with drugs and medical technology, right? They used to die early in the old days, and certainly in 1887. But your body it's complex. It's a gift from you know who, right? But one thing goes wrong. You get a cold, you start sneezing, you can't control yourself, you can't sleep. Something puts yourself out of whack. And you don't know what these things, look at COVID. It came out of nowhere. We know where it came from, right? The lab. But regardless of where it came from, it got some people. It did severe damage to some people. And you couldn't see it. It's an invisible thing. It's the Horla. Our bodies are miracles. The human brain is the most complicated organ nature ever created. 100 billion nerve cells and many more contact points between them provide our brain with capabilities no supercomputer can match this day. Well, didn't the computer beat the chess master, Jimmy? Yes, but that's beside the point. The point is that the supercomputer didn't have the imagination that you and I do. One of its most important characteristics is the ability to learn. 85 billion cells, 85 billion serve to functions in the brain. Even more incredible is that each one of those neurons, on average, connects to thousands of other neurons, resulting in an estimated 100 trillion connections. I can't fathom that. I can't count that high. That's going to be our national debt soon. I'm kidding. These connections allow signals to travel between neurons, right? And can function as logic gates, giving a computing power, blah, blah, blah. And And incredibly, your brain uses 20 watts of power. You are, ladies and gentlemen, producing electrical energy through these synapses in your brain. It's a biological miracle. Despite the brain only accounts for 2% of your body mass, the brain consumes 20% of your body's energy. You heard the 80-20 rule in business? 20% of your customers, right, give you 80% of your revenue. That's almost like a given in business, whether you're a large or small business, right? 20% of your body's energy goes to supporting 2% of the brain because that's all it weighs, right? This is an amazing statistic. And your brain is so complicated. What can happen to your brain? What can happen to your brain? What can go wrong, right? We're all perfect. This is a story of an unnamed narrator in dire narration. It's in a diary for a reason. It's personal. People write in diaries to document their thoughts and feelings, and why we can speculate why he wrote this. Staying inside the story, we have to leave to speculation and deal with the facts of the story, that a man goes insane, goes mad. How terrible is this to watch? What can be done to help such a person? You can research and read about how mentally ill people were treated throughout history. Not very nicely, by the way, but knowing the complexity of the human being that we just reviewed, knowing what this guy went through from May 8th, right, from the beginning of the story to the end, where he actually sets fire to his own house because he thinks he's killing an invisible being that only he can see. Is it any wonder we talk about normal? When we talk about normal, what is normal? Ask any doctor, psychologist, what is normal? They will not be able to define it for you. You know what normal is? Let Jimmy define it for you. It's what most people do. If most people do this, it must be normal, right? Is that true? Blood pressure ranges all over the place every day. It goes up, it goes down. But what's normal? Well, isn't that 120/80, Jimmy? Your pulse should be 60. I don't know. That's what they say it is. I've never had blood pressure. Never. Of course. You could read this as a horror story, but that's your choice. I hope you really enjoyed this story. I love stories like this. I love all the stories I pick to read with you because they're classics. They give us insight into other people that we may not. I don't think you'll ever be able to talk to a guy like this. Hopefully not. In any case, he wrote this stuff down in his diary narration. Well, Jimmy, are you saying that you really believe that the narrator existed? I'm saying that this story that Guy de Maupassant wrote, the first-person narrator, is a tremendous opportunity to watch. You can read this in two ways: to watch a guy go insane, or watch a horror story, a good horror story, by the way. And by the way, Vincent Price played this in a movie called The Horla. I think it was called The. This is Jimmy. Okay. You've been reading with Jimmy. This is part 4 analysis of The Horla by Guy de Maupassant. Hopefully you like it. Come back again, read some more. Really want your email, jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com, jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. And remember, keep a journal. You'll be surprised what you'll learn about yourself.